Srila Sukadeva Goswami continues, my dear king, after giving up the body of a deer, Bharat Maharaj took birth in a very pure Brahmana family. There was a Brahmana who belonged to the dynasty of Angira. He was fully qualified with Brahminical qualifications. He could control his mind and senses, and he had studied the Vedic literatures and other subsidiary literature. He was expert in giving charity, and he was always satisfied, tolerant, very gentle, learned, and non-envious. He was self-realized and engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. He remained always in trance. He had 9 equally qualified sons by his first wife, and by his second wife he begot twins, a brother and a sister, of which the male child was said to be the topmost devotee and foremost of saintly kings, Bharata Maharaj. This, then, is the story of the birth he took after giving up the body of a deer. Purport. Bharata Maharaj was a great devotee, but he did not attain success in one life. In Bhagavad Gita it is said that a devotee who does not fulfill his devotional duties in one life is given the chance to be born in a fully qualified Brahmana family or a rich Kshatriya or Vaishya family. Suchinam Srimatam Gehe. Bharat Maharaj was the firstborn son of Maharaj Rishabha in a rich Kshatriya family, but due to his willful negligence of his spiritual duties and his excessive attachment to an insignificant deer, he was obliged to take birth as the son of a deer. However, due to his strong position as a devotee, he was gifted with the remembrance of his past life. Being repentant, he remained in a solitary forest and always thought of Krishna. Then he was given the chance to take birth in a very good Brahmana family. Shishukuvacha Ataka Chichit Vijavarat Yangira Pravaratya Samadam Matapak Swajaya Jayana Jaga Santosha Tiksha Prashraya Vijana Suyatma Gyanananda Yuktasyatma Sadrasasutta Silacharo Rupau Darya Guna Navasadarya Angajaba Bhuvor Natunam Chaya Viyasyam Baryayayam Yastu Tachapamam Samparamam Bhagavatam Rajashi Pravaram Bharatam Uchishtamrigga Shariram Charama Sarirena Vipratvam Gatam Mahu. Srila Sukadeva Goswami continues, my dear king, after giving up the body of a deer, Bharat Maharaj took birth in a very pure Brahmana family. There was a Brahmana who belonged to the dynasty of Angira. He was fully qualified with Brahminical qualifications. He could control his mind and senses, and he had studied the Vedic literatures and other subsidiary literatures. He was expert in giving charity, and he was always satisfied, tolerant, very gentle, learned, and non-envious. He was self-realized and engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. He remained always in a trance. He had 9 equally qualified sons by his first wife, and by his second wife he begot twins, a brother and a sister, of which the male child was said to be the topmost devotee and foremost of saintly kings, Bharat Maharaj. This, then, is the story of the birth he took after giving up the body of a deer. So in the Bhagavad Gita, we find Suchinam Shimatam Gehe Yoga Brashto Bijayate. Yoga Brashto means devotees or yogis who fall down, who are not able to complete the path of Krishna consciousness in one life. They are given a chance in the next life to take up the process of devotional service again, if they are desirous to do so. So, such persons who take birth again, they do so in a special way. Either they take birth in the family of Brahmanas, Suchina, or Srimata. Srimata refers to those who are rich. Or, even better and very rare, they take birth in the family of pure devotees of the Lord. That is, if they're extremely lucky, they can take birth like that. Otherwise, for those who take birth as Suchinam or Shimatam, they generally go first to the heavenly planets. And there in the heavenly planets they enjoy for a long time. Then when they come back, as Brahmanas or wealthy personalities. For those who just take one birth to the next, without bothering with the heavenly planets, they can take birth in the family of great transcendentalists, so they don't have to waste time in the heavenly planet. Also, they wouldn't want to go there. They don't think that's very useful. So, Bharat Maharaj, now one may ask, but he was a fallen devotee, why did he become a deer? Well, the answer is given in the purport. Because he willfully neglected his spiritual duties and accepted the body, or accepted the relationship with an insignificant deer. Willfully neglected. There's a difference between accidental fall down and willful fall down. When you fall down because you wanted to, that's very much different than if you fall down because you just happen to do it. When you just happen to fall down from spiritual life, that's accidental, it's called. This could happen due to habitual activities, or this could happen due to circumstances, accidents, or something like this. But willful means one goes out of his way to arrange to fall down out of spiritual life. And such fall downs are not forgiven immediately. They are, first there's a little punishment. And in the case of Bharat Maharaj, the little punishment was he took the body of a deer. Now, we may think that's big punishment. Well, it's not so much punishment. Because he remembered exactly why he was in this body of a deer. He knew exactly what he was in the previous life. And he understood what he has to do to get out of this condition of being attached in the body of a deer. So, it wasn't so bad. After all, there was a chance to get freed from the entanglement of the material nature still, even though he was in the body of a deer. Therefore it said, Neha brikamanashosti naprachavayana vijite svapanopi asya dharma sayate mahato bayat. That if one makes a little advancement on this path of devotional service, that's very good. Because, first of all, there's no loss in it. And it is never diminished. And this little advancement can save one from the greatest fear. And that greatest fear is to be spun off and lost from the process of Krishna consciousness. You don't have to worry like that. One will always, again, be able to take up the process of Krishna consciousness in the future. Because if one surrenders to Krishna, even once, Krishna accepts that person like his very own. And therefore, he does not allow that person to give up his Krishna consciousness. Maybe that person's Krishna consciousness will be disturbed for a short period of time. Maybe that person's Krishna consciousness will be hindered for some short period of time. But ultimately, that Krishna consciousness will manifest again, and that person will be able to take it up in the future. Maybe many lives later. I've heard Prabhupada even say to one who was especially unable to take up the process of Krishna consciousness, maybe 700 lives later. But at one point, he will take it up again. It may just be unmanifested in the heart for a while. But then at one point it will manifest again, and that person will take up Krishna consciousness. So, you can never be lost completely from Krishna. You can maybe become a rascal for some time. Now, there's no reason to do it. There's no need. It's not like we have to do this. But if, per chance, by chance, you happen to do, because you're a nonsense, then maybe you will be punished for one lifetime. But then you'll be able to take up the process of Krishna consciousness again if you're sincere to become Krishna conscious at any point. After all, devotees always have an inclination towards devotees. It is not that we like to be independent or separate from devotees. Devotees always like to be with devotees. But sometimes one thinks that maybe it's better to be separate because he falls into Maya. And when one falls into Maya, he starts thinking of himself as a body, or he starts thinking of himself as very great. and he needs and requires to be treated in certain ways. Therefore, sometimes he falls into Maya and doesn't like to be with devotees anymore. So such person, they may get the chance to go away, but they'll have to remember Krishna again. You cannot forget Krishna once you have surrendered to him. Because when the external circumstances are more favorable to remembering Krishna, for instance, one is suffering very much or something like that, then at that time, one will remember Krishna again. Especially during times of suffering. It's a little bit material to think like that, but that's the fact. Yeah. It's not material to think like that, but it's material to think of such a person surrendering to Krishna. That's not material either. How do you say that? When such a person will only surrender to Krishna because he's suffering too much, that's like material. But it's better to surrender to Krishna in that way than not to surrender at all. Because surrendering to Krishna, that's spiritual. It doesn't really matter how you do it. Of course, in the low levels of surrender, there's still material contamination there. So therefore, that's not the best thing. In these low levels of surrender. I mean, when he's suffering so much, he just can't go on suffering in the material world like this. He wants relief, so he goes screaming to God, help me, save me. So that's a kind of a low level of surrender. Not very impressive. Not very impressive level of surrender. What's the problem? Not loud enough?
No, they don't understand English. That's all the other with that. The three of them.
So why don't you just switch this gizmo to where he is?
Okay.
Then he can speak into the microphone. Quick, hurry up. In Krishna consciousness, we are fortunate because we have the opportunity to surrender unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And we're able to perform service for some time. And if we continue to perform service like this, then we'll go back home, back to Godhead. Now, sometimes we find devotees fall down because they are foolish, or they're not intelligent enough, or there's so many problems. But it is stated, Jakra sadhanam chanam bhujam hareya bhajana pakota patasthito vidhi kim avabhadram abhudamushyavai, that does not matter. It matters, of course. But if one falls down from Krishna consciousness, still he's not lost. Because later on he can always come back to taking up Krishna consciousness, maybe next lifetime. Of course, it's no fun to have to take birth again, packed up in another womb. Ooh, how rotten. But still, if one is such a nonsense that he cannot maintain in one lifetime, then he gets another chance. But if one perfectly performs all his occupational duties according to Varna Ashram, very nice, but he doesn't become a devotee of the Lord, then what has he gained? He's not gained anything. He's actually wasted his time. Therefore, in our Krishna consciousness movement, we are recommending you do not give up. Because at least you're doing something which is the perfectional stage, or perfectional process and platform. You may not be yet on the perfectional stage yourself, but that which you are doing is perfect. The service is perfect. Maybe you don't do it perfectly, but the service is perfect. It's like, you can't get a better activity than chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. There is simply no better activity. But, although the activity is perfect, maybe we don't do it perfectly. We can be chanting and bouncing the mantra off the walls and not hearing anything. Or not properly chanting. Or offensively chanting in different ways. So, this is not very good. But the mantra and the chanting itself is perfect. There's nothing in any way wrong with the chant. The mantra itself is perfect, but due to our being impure, we may make some defects while chanting. That's our fault, not its fault. Similarly, the processes of hearing, remembering, etc., serving the lotus feet of the Lord, these are perfect processes. There's no fault in these processes. But the way we perform them may have some fault because of our material contamination. Therefore, one should always endeavor to hear, chant, remember, etc., the Lord's name, form, qualities, pastimes, etc., because such processes are perfect. They're perfect and they're beyond defect. It is the question of us realizing that and ourselves coming to the platform by which we can actually surrender to the Lord. Therefore, our Krishna consciousness means come to the point of surrendering to Krishna. We have to get to the point of actually surrendering to Krishna. This is not very easy. It is easy, and it's not easy, simultaneously. It is easy because anybody can surrender to Krishna. Yeah. Anyone can, for instance, sit and listen to Bhagavad Gita class, Bhagavatam class, chant Hare Krishna mantra. Anybody, nobody cannot do that. But some do, some don't. Even when it's so easy, and even if one is engaged like that, at one point perhaps, a person might give that up too, due to the mind. The mind is the worst thing. The mind can degrade one like anything. One should elevate oneself with his mind, not degrade himself. The mind can be the best friend, the mind can be the worst enemy. It just depends on how you use it. If the mind is simply attached to all kinds of material things, then the mind becomes a very severe enemy. But if the mind is thinking of Krishna or engaged in Krishna, then the mind becomes the best friend. Because the mind is the internal action sense, the sense within. Krishna says, Manaksastani indriyani prakritinstani karshati. Everyone is struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. We're struggling with the mind, because the mind is always busy being attached to various aspects of the sensual perception, sensual enjoyment. Therefore, it's giving us a hard time why we're not enjoying. The mind doesn't like this business of tyaga or renunciation. The mind always says, hey, you fool, why are you busy renouncing all things? You should surrender to me, and I'll give you all kinds of pleasures. Come on. The mind says, hey, what's wrong with you? All the time following all these principles. Better you do some enjoying here, then I'll calm down and surrender, and then you'll be happy. But if you don't, you just keep following all these principles, well, I'm going to keep torturing you. I'm going to give you a hard time like anything. Therefore, the mind is like a little demon inside. Yeah. Sometimes the mind acts like a little deprogrammer, just to take us away from Krishna consciousness. Yeah. It's such a nonsense thing. It is simply a product of the material energy. Krishna says, this material energy. Bhumira ponalo vayukamano mano budhya evata. Ahankara iti yang me prapatim vinashrada. These are the 8 separated energies of the Lord, of which the mind is one of them. Subtle body. Body, nonetheless. Mind is subtle body. Material energy, that's all. So, this material energy of the mind may sometimes be a real first-class rascal. May demand of us so many various forms of surrender. May want us to do things which we don't want to do, or may demand of us activities which are incompatible with our status as a devotee. Therefore, we should learn the platform of surrendering the mind to the lotus feet of the Lord. And even if sometimes the mind gives one lots of trouble, he should learn to control the mind. This is anyway Brahminical qualification, as it is stated here about the father of Jadabharata. His father was a perfect Brahmana. he had all Brahminical qualifications, beginning with Sama, Dhamma. Always when we speak of Brahminical qualifications, these are the first two that are mentioned immediately. Sama means control of the mind, Dhamma means control of the senses. Immediate qualification of Brahmana. Everything follows from those two. Practically every list I've ever seen heads off with these things. Sama. It means seeing things equally. In other words, no hankering, no lamentation. Simply seeing all things as part and parcel of the material nature, and therefore equally useless, or part and parcel of the spiritual nature, and equally valuable, depends on one's point of view. He sees things with an equal mind, which means he does not discriminate from the point of view of sense perception, but he sees things through the vision of the Shastra. And Dhamma, automatically the mind is controlled. Mind is controlled because mind will fix one at the lotus feet of the Lord when the senses are not agitated. If the senses are agitated, the mind spins out of control. And if the senses are not agitated, then the mind can stay in control. So it is a question of control of senses and mind. Mind becomes out of control when senses get out of control. If senses are within control, mind cannot go out of control. Mind is simply echoing the perceptions which appear from the senses. And when the senses are controlled, the mind does not go out of control. Is the door shut?
No.
Oh. Don't shut it. No. So, we find that control of mind, control of senses, these are the most important ingredients. And for devotee as well, this is very important. Bharat Maharaj, while meditating, being attached to the deer, lost control of the mind and senses. Because the senses, being sentimental comes from sentiment, which comes from sentient, which means senses. Being sentimental, the Bharat Maharaj was very much attached to the deer. So his mind became overwhelmed with love and emotion for the deer. Now this is not very nice, but at least Bharat Maharaj did not become attached in family life again. That's the worst kind of sentiment. The strongest attachment is the attachment to family life. Prabhupada once mentioned that sometimes it is seen that a sannyasi may become attached to a temple or to some of the paraphernalia that make up a sannyasi's life, which is usually not much. But such attachment is nothing compared to the attachment of family life. Even attached in such a way, one can gradually purify quickly before the time of death by intelligence. But when one is attached in family affairs, his attachment is so deep that at the time of death he becomes so agitated that I have to give up all this nice attachment. Therefore he falls back into the species of life, takes birth and death again. So, the attachment and detachment from this material world are very much depending on the situation of the mind. If the mind is situated nicely, then it is possible to be detached. But if the mind is situated in a very bad way, then the mind becomes the source of entanglement in the material world. It causes us to take birth again. Dhammano vaikamatmika jena sharirabandha. Just simply by the coloring of the mind, we are forced to take birth again. Forced to take another body. Forced to change species sometimes. Simply by the covering and coloring of the mind. Therefore, it is recommended to control the mind. Control the mind, control the senses, by always acting in Krishna's service. This is our process. It's a very, very good process. The process engages the senses in Krishna's service. when the senses are engaged in Krishna's service, then the mind automatically follows. And when the mind is engaged in Krishna's service, one is peaceful. So therefore, it is a question of engaging the senses and the mind in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. First the senses, first the body. First you engage the body, which simply wants to act for its own sense gratification. You engage the body in Krishna's service by force. It's not like the body is going to want to serve Krishna. You can just examine every morning when it's time to get up how much the body wants to serve Krishna. The body says, serve who? What? But then at that point, of course, the mind also doesn't want to serve Krishna. The mind says, what? Better to just speculate. The streaming platform when the mind is just all mental speculation. The mind can come up with unlimited forms of garbage at night, just spinning all around the whole universe. It's all unlimited forms of mental speculation. Then, one has to learn the art of using the intelligence. In the very, very first in the morning, the intelligence says, all right, body, we know where you're at. All right, mind, we know where you're at too. Then the intelligence gets out its boots and starts kicking. Okay, mind and body, get up. Let's go. Come on, let's go. Up, up, up. Then one gets himself together. So, we find that by intelligence, one can factually get himself involved in spiritual life by intelligence. And we force the body, we force the mind to act in a proper fashion, because by nature, the body and mind, they're not very cooperative on the platform of spiritual life. Spiritual life does not come naturally to the body and mind. To the body and mind, what comes naturally is stuff like eating and sleeping, mating and defending. But when you want to factually be engaged in spiritual life, then you have to develop the natural inclination of intelligence to surrender to Krishna, despite all of one's propensity to fall down into the material world. One has to gradually develop the idea that my whole business in life is to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that's all. Then, when one develops this mentality, then this mentality helps him very much to advance in spiritual life and go back home, back to Godhead. So we are, in this Krishna consciousness movement, developing a certain kind of mentality, developing a certain kind of feeling that we want to surrender to Krishna. That is our so-called sentiment. That's not sentiment born of senses. That's sentiment born of spiritual desire. I want to go back home, back to Godhead. I want to get freed from the miserable conditions of this material world. I want to surrender to the Lord, and I don't want to be attached here in this material world anymore. That is spiritual desire. And one should learn this spiritual desire. One should understand this is the real goal of life, and not be attached here in this material world anymore. So if we can just learn this art, that will be very good for us, and that will be good for anyone else who comes in contact with us as well. So are there any questions?
This actually means surrender. At one point that we surrender. If this happened and for once we surrender all the time? Or forever? Or
No. Surrender means you have to always be surrendering at every moment. You can't just surrender just for one minute and now that's it. I'm surrendered. It's something you must always do. Continuous. So it's a continuous process of surrender. At every minute, every second. But some are better surrenderers than others because they've been doing the surrender for quite some time. It's natural for them.
Then after some period of time, this become natural.
What I just said.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
I heard that the blessings of the spiritual master is more important than personal endeavor.
Well, they're not necessarily separate. When you endeavor very much to take up the mission of the spiritual master, then you can get the blessings of the spiritual master, or mercy. It's not like the spiritual master just throws out some mercy just because, something. There has to be a reason. That reason generally is that somebody wants to surrender and he's doing a good job and he does something wonderful for the satisfaction of the Lord. So they're not necessarily separate. But it is a fact that when you get what's called Guru Kripa, or the Kripa Siddha, when you get the perfection that comes from satisfying the Lord or the spiritual master, and they give you then you can become perfected, even without being a perfect sadhaka, a follower of all of the principles.
This is called.
Yeah, that's called closeness.
Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said that we should beat our mind with the shoes in the morning and with the broomstick in the night. We should imagine our mind or do it in the mental.
What do you mean imagine?
I mean
the mind will have a lot of fun imagining that you're beating it, because then it won't matter at all. You have to really do it from the platform of intelligence. Then the mind won't like that. Then they'll surrender. But if in the mind you imagine that whole scene, then the mind will have tricked you, and you'll still be on the mental platform. But if from the platform of intelligence, you grab that stupid mind, then the mind will like that. It won't like that. It'll surrender.
How to grab it?
Well, if you don't know, I can't tell you. You're different than your mind. Your mind is not you. So if the mind is not you, then you can grab it. Just a question of knowing how to do it. You just take the intelligence and grab it. What can I say? It's just like a mystic yogi. That you ask him, how do you walk on air? He says, you just step up. Because that's what he does. He just steps up. He doesn't do anything more fancy than that. He just steps. So you go, step on there. Therefore, he can't explain it to you. You shouldn't ask such questions. So how do you grab the mind? You just grab it.
We must count 200 or...
Count what? Mind will surrender probably after 10. Not very strong fellow, it's a big chicken up there, you know? You have that expression? Can you get on? Yeah? Be a big chicken?
Yeah.
Afraid?
Yeah.
Big chicken, okay.
Because you said that once you ran through the room of Srila Prabhupada and you said, now I understood what you want out of the link of compassion. And he read him what he said. You understood or something like that.
There's just a very clear understanding of how Prabhupada's program was the best thing to save the world. You just step on air. If you listen in English to the class, then you should give question in English. If you cannot give question in English, then you should not listen in English. You should put a thing in English.
Yes, but I understand everything, but I don't speak so good because of that time. As comes the class.
But it's not so bad. So go ahead.
It's maybe easy to control the mind when we when we remove the last of the body first.
That's a statement or a question? But it sounded to me like a statement. So you had an answer. You don't answer statements. You answer questions.
If the feeling he does not form easy.
But if you can't even make a question in English, you should listen in the translation. Because you think you understand everything, but you don't understand everything. There are plenty of, in all languages, there are plenty who think they understand everything. Don't need translation? Not for me. I understand everything. So then they ask a question, they ask in another language. Then I say, why don't you ask in your language? Oh, I can't speak very well. No English speaking good though. In this way we capture rascals. Give him a headphone. It's like going to the back of the bus, you know? Having a hear through a headphone. Oh, how terrible. Now you can ask your question. And you can ask the translator.
Is it easier to control the mind when the contemplating of Krishna if first we remove the last of the mind?
Yes. What a huge endeavor. Oh, yeah. I heard laughing is good for your health.
Full desire, but then the real form, real reaction, real dark.
What?
How deep explain?
Say it again.
Some people have full desire, but haven't the will for real reaction in real dharma. How deep explain is important. Real form of desire.
Real.
Real.
Oh, will!
Real, yeah.
Will. Now it really makes no sense. At least when I thought it was real, I somehow speculated something. Will, absolutely does. Will or desire? What does this mean? Will or desire?
Воля.
Some people have many desires, but they don't have will to act. What is more important, desire or will?
That's a tough one. You mean somebody's just lazy? Yes? No. Yeah, I'm lost. Can somebody translate this?
This question? Well, I think this is a question of laziness.
But he says no?
Well, I should not understand.
No one understands.
Пробуйте на хороший. Разрешите.
Kako mislite da neko želi, a nema volju ako nije jedan?
Učiniš ovo, a zadnje iz toga ništa ne ispadne.
A mislite da ne ispadne, on proba ili šta? On pokuša. A mislite da nema dovoljno odlučnosti, nije dovoljno uporan. Onda upornost je više nego volja. Maybe there's the question of determination. It seems not so much will, like he says, he tries to do something. He has some desire and then he tries, but then nothing comes out of it.
Yes, so then the word is determination. Determination is something different. You may have a desire to do something, and you may even try a little bit, but you don't have the determination to see it through, because determination, this is a very important quality. Actually, it's a quality either of passion or goodness, depending on who's using it. But one must have determination, willpower. I will accomplish this. I will do it. Yeah. So, such determination must be developed in Krishna consciousness, otherwise you can't succeed. That is the most important quality of all. First, desire, that's more important. But if you have desire, then you can develop determination. But if you have no determination, you can't do anything. You can't even develop your desire. And if you have no desire, you'll never develop determination anyway. So you start from desire, but then you must develop determination. It's 1-2 process.
He's asking, he stated that we, it is always stated that we have to serve Krishna with love and devotion. But he says that somehow it seems to him that this is not under his control. How he will serve love and devotion, like how, what does it mean actually? Some feeling in the heart, or what is meant by this? We should serve by with love and devotion.
You just step on air. If you haven't developed bhakti by engaging in the bhakti process, then it's very hard to understand what is love and devotion. It's not a question of mental speculation. It's developed in the heart. This is a how can we question. How can we serve Krishna with love and devotion? Therefore the answer is you just engage in the service, in the practice of Krishna consciousness process. Automatically love and devotion will develop. It's not something you can manipulate. It's not mental speculation. It's a question of the soul. And that when the soul becomes purified, naturally its love for Krishna develops.
He said it a few years ago. He felt that he had more love than now. He said, now I'm trying to impose the process, but I feel empty when I shed love. Something like that.
Maybe some years ago, he was a better speculator than he is now. And now the mind has become some more purified by hearing the philosophy. And now you can realize that what was before was not real, artificial, sentimentality. So you shouldn't consider this as going backwards. It's actually going forward. And now the next stage is to move even more forward, then serve Krishna fully, and then the heart will develop. One must move forward with determination.
You said yesterday that devotee can never...
That has to be seen in each and every case. That has to be seen in each and every case.
Is it possible that...
It's possible a devotee could become a demon if he really wants to. It's generally not something we talk about, but if you really want to, I suppose you could, because everything's based on desire.
Is it possible that one is simply acting like devotee and he's thinking that he is devotee, but actually he is not in the heart?
It's possible. And everybody feels all disturbed in the mind. Don't speculate so much. Oh, such speculation. Am I a devotee or am I a demon? He's acting like a devotee. Am I a demon who's acting like a devotee, but actually I'm a demon who's acting like a devotee who's acting like a demon? Or am I a devotee who's actually a demon, who's actually just faking to be a devotee? Maybe I'm a devotee, but maybe I'm actually a devotee who's acting like a demon. Maybe I'm a demon of a devotee. I'm a devotee of a demon. You just love to just sit, especially in meditative posture, and just speculate. The mind just spins. over here?
What does it mean to get love from the spiritual master? Does it mean does it first only when we get like a personal club on the head, or I mean spiritual master Swami personally through lectures or like speaking or what or something that gives a club, or maybe he arranged that through some other devotees. Can you, is it also considered like the club of the spiritual master?
Why not? This club is very useful. It packs up into a very small form, and it goes into letters. And we can mail it. Sometimes we mail it to others. And as soon as it comes out of the letter, it's a very interesting club because sometimes in lectures it just expands itself into unity. Then all at once it goes. It is mystic. And it comes when it's called.
You said yesterday that
If anybody else saw this video, they think I'm completely nuts. Yesterday
say maybe sometimes if you are lucky, then the spiritual master used it. And so that's like godless mercy. Yes. And how can we inspire spiritual master? I mean, it's godless, but
how
still
do we inspire spiritual That's a really good one. Keep going. Getting better. Yeah. Don't fold up your paper. Open it up again. Keep going. Don't be discouraged. Be determined.
Now we might feel that it's very good and we need it, but we cannot expect anything from spiritual master in that. So
Oh, woe is me. I'm so poor and neglected. I'm so insignificant. Why should the spiritual master have anything to do with me? Better I just go in the corner and cry. Oh, whoa. Wow, it's a whole zoo. Next. Next. Yes. I'm going to get a label for the cages.
He heard from Astarata Prabhu in Germany that only pure ones, the who's pure, can go to the spiritual world, and also that the earth is the only planet from which one can go directly to the spiritual world. Is it true?
More or less, yeah.
Why do you say
Yes, it's true, but there's a lot of other things that you could say too. For instance, you could go to the spiritual world from the earth planet, but stopping off here or there to see the sights in the universe for a little while, and then go back home, back to Ghana. Or you could go up to the Brahmaloka from the earth planet, and then from Brahmaloka go back to Ghana. But it starts with the earth planet. So therefore, more or less, yes?
Before yesterday, you said that there is contact between opposite sex. There is mathematical contamination. So how is this in Sankirtan? You must preach to opposite sex.
Yes, but one should only do it minimally. Otherwise, he becomes affected. It means only enough to sell the book. Then, next.
You can just say a few minutes with the person.
Well, it has nothing to do with time. It could take a few minutes, for the butter to melt into a pool on the floor. It's not exactly time.
I'm not sure it's possible.
It's a question of just engaging in the service and then moving on.
And we should not look materialist in the eyes.
Well, don't you think it'll be a little hard in Sankirtan if you're all the time? You want a book? Great shoes you got. Don't you think they're going to think you're a little weird? There's looking and there's looking.
How should one act and think that you can inspire other devotees?
By example. Best way to inspire others is by example. By just acting in the right way. Then gradually, by their own intelligence, they may understand something. It's more difficult, but it's more effective.
Can you describe when we leave the body? Sachinanda described his experience when he had operation stomach. Can we think and can we change our desires?
The same way you think right now, the same way you feel right now, you will feel when you leave this body. Except now, everything you think and feel is colored by the body. At that time, it won't be. But it's the same exact thing. It's just the subtle body.
Can we lose the attachments of the body?
Yes. You're forced to lose the attachment to the body because you get thrown out of it. It's called death. But you're not detached from bodies in general because you have the desire to enjoy. Therefore, you get a new body. Therefore, one has to develop in this body the desire to become detached from enjoying spirit. Then one won't take another body.
It is said that the spiritual master leads one back to Krishna, and this means at the end, in the moment of death, the spiritual master came to this person and go lead him in this way after death.
It depends, because spiritual master and Krishna, they're a team. They work together. So it doesn't matter which member of the team brings you back to God.
And this soul, it always goes to the spiritual world, or with the spiritual master, or with Krishna. It's not happen that he's alone in this way.
Alone? What do you mean alone?
That he's alone. On this way. Yes.
You think you'll get afraid? The Vishnudut is coming, golden airplane. Take you back. Nothing to worry about. You won't get lost. Afraid of the dark. The girls win the award today, I must say. Isn't it? They did really good today, didn't they? Any brave soul out there wants to try another? Good luck.
I would like to know how should I act because I'm very much materially entangled in my family life and in my business, and I just don't know what to do. Whether to wait to chant my rounds and to do some services and to wait Krishna to solve my situation, or should I do something?
Well, they're nice.
I mean, should I take them to Gurukula or wait here because their father will never allow this for me, and my parents are the same, so this is my situation. There is a temple and
Entangled. Best thing is to, go on and engage continuously in your service in whatever way you can. Maintain. These here, they look very nice to me. They can become Krishna conscious in that way too. And in this way, Krishna will also make arrangements. But it's also difficult if you try to make artificially some battle. It may not work. When you make war, you should be assured of success before starting war. One should not make war unless he's assured of success. So in a situation where one will have a lot of entanglement and perhaps failure, better he doesn't make war. And situation of going on, serving Krishna, chanting Hare Krishna properly dissolved. It's not bad. It's not the greatest, but it's not bad.
I mean, I can't engage properly in any service because of this entanglement. I mean, I have this shop and I'm not satisfied.
This is like the platform of the Vaishya. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, one can act for Krishna on any platform. It's not that you have to do something else to become Krishna conscious.
Is it for a moment or it will be always like this?
Nothing is always. Nothing even lasts for a long time. At one point, everything will change. After all, when they grow up, they'll go off and do their own thing. And who can stop you from surrendering fully?
And what about Gurukula?
That's nice, but if everybody's going to start jumping up and down and screaming and shouting and throwing bombs at you, maybe that's not the best thing to do. But then again, maybe it's okay. I can't say. But we have seen that when there's a big agitation like this, then it is very, very difficult to do that. And it gets everybody entangled. And it generally is not very successful. There's a legal question. According to legality, this has to be worked out. The laws of land. There are laws in every land, and the laws are different about the rights of fathers and rights of mothers, and like this. Gurukul may not be recognized by the educational system here, I don't know. So this is all legal questions. I can't answer. These need lawyers.
I mean, if there is no legal, if it's free from illegally to go, I can go and then. I mean, because
if you want to, and there's no law or legal thing that can stop you,
the
that's up to
parents
you.
and the husband, they're always talking like that they will do something for me if I take them. This is only I'm afraid.
What they can do?
I don't know.
Hire somebody to shoot you in the head?
Yeah, something like this.
You really think they'll do that? I don't know.